Hey, I'm Travis. I thought I'd offer some, as a journal, some of my quiet times for people in my church and anyone who comes across this and might be interested in it. And I'm currently going through the Old Testament because I haven't spent nearly as much time there um, as I have in other passages. This particularly New Testament passages. I'm going to be coming out of Numbers 11 and just giving you some thoughts I think God has laid on me. And I've got my coffee and got the chicken stealing dog. It, she will steal chicken straight from the floor if you drop it. And but that's how she responds to all of my preaching. All right, so now what has happened here is that Israel was complaining. They were receiving manna from heaven, but they were complaining they didn't have meat. And when they had believed that God hated them, and they thought they were better off in Egypt, and they felt that they had been fooled, which is a terrifying thought. The idea that God would hate you. And Moses, it wasn't before this, in fact, it was much later. It might even be in Deuteronomy, where Moses tells them, you mean by day he led you by fire, and at night, by day by smoke, by fire at night, like a father would carry his son, but you think God hates you, which makes very little sense. And since Deuteronomy is kind of a summary of these things, it might have even been before that. But Moses doesn't want God's will not to be done. So God says, okay, well, then we're going to have them eat meat for a month. Got to have some of this coffee since chicken isn't available. So Moses deeply wants God's will to be done. Deeply. Just like the psalmist, it's very intimidating the way these people love God's glory more than anything. I've never wanted God's glory more than anyone in the Psalms or Moses or Jesus or the Davidic line. I mean, I've been praying a lot about that and that I would get to that point. But Moses is so frustrated with God. He wants God's glory. And that's kind of, I could be wrong, but I think that's the root of his frustration here. Because God's going to punish Israel, and he's like, we're going to punish them with a month of meat. And here's what Moses says. I just think this is really interesting. It says, but Moses said, the people among whom I am numbered, 600,000 on foot. Sorry if my camera's a little off here. The people who I number 600,000 on foot, and you have said, I will give them meat that they may eat a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them and be enough for them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them and be enough for them? And the Lord said to Moses, is the Lord's hand shortened? Now you shall see whether my word will come true for you or not. I loved it how God didn't really care about Moses' confidence. Now, here's the part I think is interesting. It is possible that Moses could have been complaining to God here while picking manna out of his teeth. Manna from heaven is falling, and Moses doubts that God can accomplish his own will for his glory, despite all Moses has been through. And I think the difference between the doubts of the Israelites and the doubts of Moses is one, Moses knew that God loved them, but also Moses wanted God's purposes to be fulfilled. So here you have this guy who any one of us would just love. Maybe not go through what Moses went through, but would certainly want to see the miraculous work of God like Moses saw. Any one of us would love to see that. But do you or me, if we think we're any better than Moses in terms of our doubting God, you're just fooling yourself. And I'd be fooling myself. So the takeaway from this is, despite the ever presence of the Lord among them, they're still having these incredible doubts. And that is what I think, that moment to moment carrying of your faith through the Holy Spirit is something that we take for granted quite often, because doubts can inevitably creep up. And if it can happen to Moses, it can happen to you or me. I mean, obviously living in the end times and having the Holy Spirit is a radical difference in many ways. But the point here is that it won't be a matter of the intellect that determines, or a matter of experience that determines what kind of faith you're going to have. It really won't. It's going to be a matter of the work that God is doing. I recently, and if I get more opportunities to post, I'll talk in further detail about how God has made some big changes in my life and the life of my family and the life of my church. And I think I just have to say that I didn't make these changes. God did. I was praying that he would make these changes, and I couldn't do it. In my own power, I was completely unable to do it. And I think the point here is that when it comes to faith and believing in God, you're in many ways, God is carrying you and carrying me. And we need to constantly be acknowledging that he's doing this for us. So if you have any faith in Jesus, thank God. But if you have doubts, don't worry. You're not in bad company. And I don't know where else you can go to have your doubts fixed other than God. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to the universe? Are you going to go to 2021? Hey, it's not 2020, so we're in a good year now, so we just, all these people, ascribing causality to the year 2020, which was utterly ridiculous. But my point here is that, and to wrap all this up, and I meant for these to be very short, but this is a little longer than I meant, and I apologize. In the end, it's God that is sustaining us. Pretty simple message, easy to understand. Could have said it any number of ways, but I can't do better than the way the Bible does it. So, all right, you're not going to have better chicken than this girl right here. Nope. Ain't going to happen.